Zenless Zone Zero is an urban fantasy action role-playing game that is coming up, and it very well might turn out to be a huge game when it fully releases. So what I personally like about the game is its very unique audio-visual experience thanks to the groovy art design and music, and the game builds upon that experience very well, as in my opinion the world of New Eridu, where the game takes place, weaves together comics, fun interactions, many different NPCs with unique personalities, and creates with that an immersive RPG experience with rich gameplay. However, there's a lot of action to the game as well. The gameplay is backed by an engaging combat system that provides enjoyment for all kinds of players, whether you're a new or an advanced player, and I'm a fan of the combat as it's very engaging with a lot of strategy to it. It provides diverse possibilities for team builds, cool combos, and many different types of attacks to defeat your enemies. And this video is going to function as a guide on how to play this game in adventuring and role-playing in the cities, as well as combat for everyone looking to try out the game, so you know how to have a perfect start in the game when it's out. Zenless Zone Zero sponsored this video, so shout out to them for sponsoring the video. I'm going to start off with the combat, as it's one of my favorite aspects of the game. The combat is very fluid in this game, backed by really good looking visuals, and the first thing you need to know is that when you enter combat or a new zone where you will fight a bunch of enemies, you have to form a squad. You can pick up to 3 characters, so it's wise to synergize your party composition in such a way that your chosen characters benefit from each other's presence in the squad. For example, you want to have a character that attacks from a ranged, so ranged DPS, and then a brawler type of character which will be your melee DPS, and then maybe a support type of character that can do both and be all over the battlefield. You also get to choose a Bangbu when you select your squad, which is like a mascot that has its own stats that you can use to your advantage and will help you out in battle. When you get into the actual combat, you'll see a few buttons on the right. The most basic one is your basic attack, and you're going to use this one a lot, as 1, it's the fastest attack that you can spam without having to worry too much, but 2, it also builds up your main resource in the game, which allows you to do more powerful attacks as well as combos when you've built it up and reached the threshold. Each of your character has this bar, and you build up your character's resource bar even when you're not actively attacking with them. The basic attack is also just a good stream of continuous damage output, so definitely make sure to utilize it. The second button on the screen is your dash or dodge attack, essentially really good for mobility and to quickly go from A to B. This is a very useful maneuver to dodge attacks and quickly reposition yourself in more favorable positions when you're fighting, and you can combo the dodge attack with your basic attacks as well as your special attacks to maximize your damage output while making sure you don't die. Your special attack is the third icon on the screen and is a very important one as it does great damage. But when you have built up enough of your special attack resources, the special attack starts glowing up, and this is your gateway for starting a very powerful special attack that then you can combine with the assist skills of the game. Assist skills basically means you swap with one of the other characters in the team for a very powerful assist attack that is preluded with a cool animation, and you have various assist skills depending on the characters you choose, from defensive to offensive to evasive. You can choose which one you want. During the assist skill prompt, you get a few seconds to make a choice between either of your remaining squad members, so you can accordingly adapt to what is happening on the battlefield, and this is a new feature in the game that makes combat very dynamic. You can also chain assists back to back to get a full team combo where each member attacks in its own way. Accordingly, all 3 members in succession leads to absolute monstrous damage on your enemies, and will plenty of times with just this one full team combo using the assist skill system kill off enemies completely. So make sure to utilize this skill system as much as possible. Now, important to note is that your resource for special attacks build up for your other characters that are not in the field, like already said, so you can swap to those if you see their bar shining. And you can swap between characters with the 4th button on the screen, which also has a swap icon, so you can't miss it, and you can use this button to your advantage. You can swap to the characters that have their special attack ready, or you can obviously, based on previously mentioned strategic considerations, swap between ranged or melee DPS depending on the combat situation in your game. And then finally, you have your ultimate move, and this one is one of my favorites. You build up your ultimate move by attacking successfully a bunch of times, and each character has a different ultimate move, and these moves are extremely lethal. They can easily take out an enemy in one go if you hit them. You'll have to play around with the different characters to learn their ultimates and use them accordingly, but some characters have great AoE ultimates, for example, that zone everything inside of the blast while dealing great damage, while others will have a barrage of insane hits back to back that can kill off enemies like it's absolutely nothing. And these ultimates are yet again supported by great visuals, making them a blast to use, literally and figuratively. Now, outside of combat, I also want to talk about the city and exploration, as there is definitely a lot lot to explore in the game. First of all, you have your commissions. These are basically your quest lines in the form of main and side quests that you definitely want to do to progress. But you also have the rally commissions that are fully focused on combat. So for the combat enthusiast, this is a nice way to do these commissions, to engage in combat, to sharpen your skills and get rewarded while doing so. I do actually highly recommend doing these challenges to make sure your combat skills are up to par. There's also a dynamic time chasing system in the game that makes it so that you can activate certain dialogue and progress certain quest lines dependent on what time it is in the world, making this experience very dynamic. But the city has a lot of NPCs and a lot of shops where you can buy stuff as well as just play mini games and other things that I will get into a second. But good to know is that you can recognize the event triggering NPCs or objects by the exclamation mark or the question marks. You can read the newspaper to get updated on the lore. You can buy chips that give you extra power, and I highly suggest just talking to everything in the city to make sure you get as many upgrades as possible. What is fun as well is that you can even start your own shops to become rich, but just make sure your business idea is on point. And I will also visit the ramen shop, as the chef sells you a ball that has great perks to boost your stats. And oh, also the according animation that plays is just too epic. It's worth it for that alone. What is also fun about Zenless Zone Zero is that there's a lot of role playing, as obviously it's an ARPG, but your choices can influence a lot of the outcomes of the dialogues and quests. Associated with these choices, and more generally speaking your interactions with characters, is that you can in fact build relationships with them, and these characters can become hostile or friendly depending on how you approach them. So my tip here is to consider whatever you say or do when interacting with others, as it can directly influence how the NPC will perceive you in the future. What is also fun are the Godfinger arcade minigames. These are very addicting. You have Drunk Souls, which is like a platformer where you have to strategically move around to make sure you destroy as many blocks with the same colors as possible. If a block falls on you, however, you die. So you have to consider your movements carefully. You also have Dual Snake, which is my favorite. You have to get as many points as possible, and accordingly your snake will grow and have a bigger presence on the battlefield. And then you can use your size to dominate the other snakes, for example by encapsulating them. This will make sure they die, and you get a huge bonus in points when doing so. Basically, you just have to be the king of the arena. And these minigames might initially just seem to be there as a distraction, but you can actually get really rich with them if you survive as much as possible playing these games, and accordingly get a bunch of the film currency, which is a currency that allows you to buy a variety of useful items and boosts in the game. One more thing I have to definitely note is the Proxy network system. This is like a forum board where you can read all kinds of requests, questions, information from other players around the world, and it's really nice because it builds an online community and makes sure everyone can benefit from each other when necessary. The Proxy network system is basically a bunch of these small cards that you can click on to see the full description of the request or info that other people want to share that might be useful to you. And this is also a very handy thing to consider, so make sure to use the community aspects of the game to progress. And that was everything you should know to get the best start. Zenless Zone Zero is in my opinion really fun and also unique in many ways. It incorporates a lot of game elements that I haven't seen before, really, and then it has a nice addicting combat system, and the exploration and immersion of the world hooks you to keep progressing your characters to the next levels, and not just in terms of role playing, but also with the mini games, the community aspects, and ways that your character can interact with the world. And there you have it, folks. Make sure to pre-register for Zenless Zone Zero now using the link in my description. It's definitely worth checking out.